And I don't know if you heard about what has happened to George Santos. Now, George Santos, interesting character here. He ran for office as a Republican and he won. And then it just turned out that some of the things that George Santos said about his background actually were incorrect. Like he said he was part Jewish. Apparently, he lied about his education, that apparently, like he said, he went to this college that it turns out he didn't go to. So people were calling for him to resign because he was not honest about his resume, basically. Well, he has now been arrested. Let's go ahead and get into this story. I can't make this up. This has been a crazy week in reference to news, but they came to arrest George. Here we go.
NBC News correspondent Rahina Ellis is standing by outside the courthouse. Also joining us, Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale, Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian, and former federal prosecutor Cynthia Oxney. Rahima, Santos in custody now. What's next?
Well, there's several things ahead for him, but we can tell you that freshman Congressman George Santos, he did turn himself here into the federal courthouse here in Islip, New York. We believe he went in through an underground garage because we were not allowed in that area to see him, but court officials did let us know that he is now in custody. And as you point out, he is facing these charges. The indictment was returned yesterday by a federal grand jury here in Islip. It's a 13-count indictment, including charges of fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, and false statements.
Pause here. 13 counts. This is not good. 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 1 count of theft of public funds, 2 counts of making materially false statements to House representatives. I told you guys, like, when this story came out about George Santos, I was like, I don't know who George is supposed to be. I don't even know. What if his real name isn't even George Santos? I'm sorry. He's just, we don't know who this guy is supposed to be.
Today's hearing is at 1 p.m. this afternoon as he's expected to plead not guilty. Some local representatives here are hoping that he will just resign. Anna?
And Ken, this is a lengthy indictment, so let's dig deeper into these 13 counts. Walk us through what exactly we know about these charges and the investigation.
So as the U.S. attorney put it, Santos is accused of using political contributions to line his pockets. He's also accused of unlawfully applying for unemployment benefits that should have gone to New Yorkers who lost their jobs due to the pandemic. And
this guy is a con man. That's what George Santos is. You took political contributions and you put it in your pocket. That's a huge no-no. Huge one. Imagine if all the money that you guys donated to people like Bernie Sanders, imagine if they took that money and put it in their bank account. And what the hell was he thinking? Did he honestly think that he was not going to be caught? This is traceable. When people donate money to you, the money is traceable. What the hell was he thinking? 2, for him to file for unemployment, get unemployment benefits when he was not supposed to. So he took benefits away from people in need who actually did need unemployment benefits, who needed that money in New York. That is a big no. If I was George, when this is all said and done, he may not want to move back to New York. You have made some people pretty angry. Again, these are things that are traced, like unemployment. There's records kept about that. You think they weren't going to come back and find out? Boy, I tell you.
He's accused of lying to the House of Representatives. So this indictment includes 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, and 1 count of theft of public funds. And specifically, Santos is charged with defrauding campaign funders by using political contributions to fund his lavish lifestyle. As part of that, he's accused of telling certain contributors that they could give large sums of money that went beyond campaign donation limits. He's also charged with defrauding the COVID unemployment program in New York, receiving nearly $25,000 in benefits he wasn't entitled to. And he's charged with
$20,000 of benefits he took away from people who actually needed that money. That is disgusting.
making false statements on the financial disclosure reports listing his sources of income that he's required to file as a member of Congress. He's actually accused of listing $750,000 in income he did not receive. I've never seen that before, and I think that suggests we have not seen the last of charges, because he also loaned his campaign a lot of money. That is not mentioned in this indictment.
Interesting. Cynthia, let's just again emphasize what charges he is facing. 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 1 count of theft of public funds, and 2 counts of making false statements to the House of Representatives. Put that into perspective. Just how serious are these charges?
Well, they're very serious. It's a really interesting indictment. It's like a kitchen sink indictment, because a lot of these things aren't even related. I mean, the lying to the House of Representatives is totally unrelated to the campaign finance and the stealing of the COVID money. But I think Ken makes a very important point that everybody should focus on, and that is when they charge him with overstating the $750,000 in income, what we're talking about there is in the future, he's going to have to justify where he came up with a loan of $750,000 to his campaign. So I would expect a superseding indictment at some point in the future. But recognize the wire, going back for a second to the indictment itself, the wire fraud charges, which are spelled out. You know, wire fraud basically means you were defrauding people and you were sending money through the banks.
Which is also traceable. Like, it's just, he really thought that this was not going to come back to bite him in the ass. Like, seriously, what was he thinking? What was he thinking? And who gave him a loan for $700,000? Who gave him money? Who? Oh my God, con man.
You made a wire transfer from here, $25,000 from here to here, and it was fraudulent. Those are not hard to prove. He's got a big problem here. This is somebody who needs to get serious about a plea agreement very quickly, or he's going to spend a lot of time in jail.
Any money that goes through the bank, this is why a lot of times if people are trying to do something similar to what he did, they would do this by cash, right? Like hand off the cash and stuff like that. He did it through a bank. The bank, come on. If it goes through the bank, you can track it. If it goes through the bank, it is traceable. Has he not seen like any other? Did he not watch Breaking Bad? I'm sorry. Come on, man. Jeez.
Allie, some Republicans were already calling for Santos to resign before we got these indictments. So what's the word there on Capitol Hill? Do you think the scope of these charges are now going to push any of the Republicans who are on the fence, like Kevin McCarthy, the House Speaker, to make a firm decision here?
Look, so far, no, Anna. And in part, that might be because when the speaker came back from the White House meeting on the debt ceiling yesterday, he used that as an excuse for why he wasn't ready to talk about Santos's future here. But we did ask him directly in a gaggle of reporters if he thought Santos should resign. Nevertheless, this continues the idea that the New York delegation of Republicans, people like Mike Lawler, for example, are at odds with the speaker on this, because watch the differences in their reaction from yesterday. Look at this.
There's a clock ticking, and George Santos should have resigned in December. He should have resigned in January. He should have resigned yesterday, and maybe he'll resign today.
He should resign. I've said that repeatedly, and obviously these charges confirm what I've said from the beginning.
With George Santos, I did not put him on any committees. In America, we'll just follow the same pattern we always have, right? If a person is indicted, they're not on committees. They have the right to vote, but they have to go to trial.
Notice what he said there, following the same pattern that we always do. I would say that could be part of the problem, following that same pattern.
And so we'll see if Speaker McCarthy's answer changes today in light of the fact that Santos is actually in custody, and we'll see him later in court this afternoon. But it is a real reminder that McCarthy's number game here in Congress has everything to do with what he's saying, or rather not saying, about the future of Congressman George Santos. We watched, for example, just 2 weeks ago, how McCarthy was able to get that debt ceiling bill through his conference by 1 vote. It's a reminder that New York is the majority maker for McCarthy, and he needs every person with an R next to their name to be here in this building. So Santos still has leverage in that way, even though he's clearly in legal trouble right now.
Right.
They might see him as disposable because he doesn't really have much to offer. Like, I hate to say it, But if he's going through all of these financial troubles, these issues, he hasn't been there long enough to have any type of power and know people in powerful positions, so to speak. They may just kind of see him as disposable and say, oh, we'll just put somebody else in that seat. He's not really worth the trouble. We'll see.
McCarthy needed every vote just to become speaker, right? It went through 15 different rounds. Are you saying he needs Santos?
Yes, and frankly, Santos has reminded McCarthy of this at a few various moments. For example, just over the last few weeks, there was a day where Santos seemed to say that maybe he wouldn't vote for the debt ceiling bill. Then, of course, he came back around and said he would. But it's a reminder yet again that Santos does hold power in this conference when, and we've been saying this from the day that we started those first of the 15 rounds of ballots for McCarthy to become speaker, in a conference like this one where the majority is so razor thin, it gives every Republican House member the ability to sort of be like a Senator Joe Manchin. They all get to be kingmakers and they all get to have their day where every vote matters. So Santos.
Yeah, but they could put someone else, and I say this because they can handpick someone to take that seat. They can handpick someone else to go into that seat that doesn't have all this baggage, and is still going to go along with Kevin McCarthy. They can find that person. I don't think it's difficult to do. Remember, not all of New York City or the boroughs are blue. Staten Island is actually red. So just keep that in mind. Geez Louise, I can't, man. This guy is something else. Dylan says George Santos would have been perfect for Better Call Saul. Oh man, I can see that. Jesus, Red, I ain't gonna lie. I'm actually kind of impressed when people get away with stuff like this. This is something, let me tell you. Let's go ahead and finish up here.
His vote, regardless of the legal troubles, still really matter here. And it might be an explanation why we see McCarthy still dragging his feet, saying that this is for the voters and the courts to decide, and not he himself wading into the fray and saying what several in the New York delegation have been saying for a while, which is that Santos should resign.
A reminder, Santos has already said he will run for re-election. Yep. And Ken, I just want to walk through.
He said he's going to run as for re-election. As who? As who are you going to run as this time? Are you going to use your real resume this time?
What reporters have uncovered about Santos, some of these things he's admitted to, lying about where he went to school, lying about where he worked, lying about being Jewish, lying about his athletic accomplishments, lying about raising money for a homeless veteran's dog, lying to donors, lying to investors, lying about his campaign finances. That list is not even all inclusive.
Here's the thing I want to show you. It's like he didn't even try to lie the right way. Like, if you're going to lie, don't make it so freaking obvious. Education, Horace Mann School, Baruch College, NYU. Like, go a little bit lower. Like, if you're going to lie and say that you went to college, maybe not pick a school like NYU, okay? Maybe say you went to SUNY, right? Something like that. Pick like a state school. What was he thinking? No, he went high. Yes, I graduated from New York University. It's a top school. He didn't even try to do it the right way. Then when we talk about employment, let's go over to this part. This is funny. Right here. Oh, that's Faith. Hold on. We'll go to employment.
Where he worked, lying about being Jewish.
Employment. It's like he didn't even try to, if you're going to lie about where you work, you don't pick a company like Goldman Sachs. You could have picked any other company. He said Citi and Goldman Sachs. You could have picked like some public, I don't know. Pick like a local bank, man. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, he went way too high here. Then when we talk about faith, then he said that he was Jewish. This dude was, Jesus Christ. Charities, Friends of Pets United, General Employed Pulse shooting victims. He really went for the lies of all lies. He didn't even try to do it, damn.
Raising money for a homeless veteran's dog, lying to donors, lying to investors, lying about his campaign finances. That list is not even all inclusive. Do you think there's more we don't know?
I absolutely do, Anna. And as Cynthia was alluding to, it would not surprise anyone who's familiar with how federal prosecutions work to see a superseding indictment in this case, because there are things that we know, for example, the FBI was asking about, such as that alleged scheme to defraud that homeless veteran over that money for his dog, that are not in this indictment, nor is there any explanation for the source of the funds of that $750,000 he said he earned, some of which was loaned to his campaign. So those are unanswered questions that appear to be very questionable, and it would not surprise anybody to see future charges along those lines.
Now, we need to get to the overall view here. Why would he think that he could get away with that to begin with? Because he knew that most likely people probably weren't going to check it, or by the time they did check it, it would be too late, which that was his case. He was already about to be sworn in. But then also that pride, like, like you can just tell that many lies. Maybe he is a pathological liar. People like that do exist, but he knew he was not going to be held accountable. That is why, guys, that's important to understand. He knew, especially if he got in, which he did get in, he did win that seat, less likely to be held accountable. Shout out to Kit from Heartlands Media. George Santos is the avatar of Congress. He is the true representation of the scum and villainy in Congress. This is the truth. Lawrence says Santos lies his ass off and probably will skate. Assange tells the truth and spends his life in endless imprisonment. Exactly. JB says pathological liar in Congress. He's right at home. Lawrence says lying just like Biden. That's right. That's right.